So today we were with Anthony Ambriz and Bryce Fisher. All I know is that these guys are Kickstarter gurus, and they're going to teach us today how to sell a product on Kickstarter. So first, let's start off and talk about your background and like what products you've sold on it, and then we'll go from there.
So my name is Bryce, and I started off on Kickstarter with a heated jacket. I own a brand called Ravian. We launched in 2015, did about $1.3 million, and have since raised about $3 million on Kickstarter. And we've done heated jackets, heated hoodies, heated vests, heated blankets, heated gloves, wallets. I've participated in other people's campaigns, done a lot of different campaigns. Probably with other people's campaigns, I've helped raise about $10 million. With my own personal, about $3 million. So.
Okay, those are some really good numbers, Bryson.
Yeah.
Anthony, what's your background?
So my background comes in social media growth hacking and video marketing. So when I teamed up with Bryce, I just brought in the experience that I had working with e-commerce sites and influencers. And then we just sort of threw all that together because Bryce's like knowledge with Kickstarters has been on the paid side and mine's more on the organic side and hacking. So we just combine those two elements together and that's how we get results.
So if I wanted to sell a product on Kickstarter, like, is there like a 5-step process we could follow? Like, what would be the first thing that I should pay attention to?
Yeah, the very first thing, in fact, with launching any business that Anthony and I like to do is to validate that the idea will work before we launch it. We talk a lot about this in our course, but the one thing that we do right from the get-go is build a 3-page fake website squeeze page. So we build out a concept. It's just an idea. We do
Are you using like lead pages?
We use ClickFunnels. So we use
Okay.
ClickFunnels. We set the first page as a sales page. It's got one option, either to click, one option to click through to learn more. The second page is a product page with a price. And then if they click the buy button, it goes to a third page that says, sorry, we're out of stock. Sorry, we're out of inventory. And we track the conversion, and we're looking for positive ROI. If we can take a fake idea, run traffic to it through PPC campaigns.
So what's an example of a fake idea?
A lot of ideas we've done. The Ravian jacket is an example. The heated, the wallet that we did. I've helped a company called Stealth.
With the Ravian jacket, you just created mock photos. Is that what you did?
Yeah, so...
And you put it on a ClickFunnels page?
So at the time, we're using ClickFunnels now. Back then, we were using Optimized Press and WordPress. But yeah, I mean, so I had an idea, heated jackets. Okay, well, I didn't have a heated jacket, but I can go and buy a black jacket. I can Photoshop a logo on it. I can put some little red squares on it, and I can say it's a heated jacket. So there's a lot of things, people think they have to go build a prototype. Well, actually you can fake it until, you can actually make it and make money. So
and then how were you driving traffic? Facebook ads, Google ads?
So I like to start with Google ads. Google ads in a online sales funnel, people who are running, who can find conversion in keywords, are more likely to have more success on the long term, because with Facebook, you're switching out audiences every 6 to 7 days. You're building lookalikes. You're cross-sectioning the 1% with 5%. And it's just really tedious. So if you can get a good stream of PPC with a keyword that converts, Ravian in the last 2 years has done a little over $6 million, and it's just this PPC campaign that's pushing the entire thing. So
okay, Anthony, is this something that you do as well, or how does your process different?
So with this, for me, this is like common knowledge, not common knowledge that it makes sense for us to do this, right? Mm-hmm. To build out and really validate an idea, because the error and the big mistake that people make is that they think that Kickstarter is the way to validate their idea. Yeah. And so a lot of people just jump in there, set up their campaign. Like if they get lucky and they somehow succeed, then they're sort of screwed because they took no time figuring out how they were going to manufacture something, source it, do all that stuff, and then continue to market it.
But doesn't at this point Kickstarter be, so it used to be you could just throw up some diagrams on Kickstarter. Now don't you have to have an actual product?
Yeah, now you need a prototype for Kickstarter. Kickstarter has changed its rules in terms of conditions and all that stuff.
But couldn't say, so you're saying you should test it before you get to Kickstarter, yes. But Like if it doesn't succeed, couldn't I just pick a new brand and test something else out in the future? Wouldn't it be easier to do that with Kickstarter's user base, or like why or why not? We'll start with Anthony and then go to Bryson.
Yeah, well, I mean, Kickstarter leaves a history of like how much crap you've put up there. So if you kept it all under the same account, you'd see like this person's failed and canceled and messed up multiple accounts. Yeah, you just don't want to use Kickstarter as your validation process. You want to validate it first, because in the process of validating it with using ClickFunnels or doing this setup that we do with this 3-page process, you also learn how you should market and position yourself. Because then that'll transfer over really easily once you set up the Kickstarter, and then even after the Kickstarter, because you'll figure out your brand, you'll figure out your marketing messaging and all that. So it makes your life a lot easier.
All right, Bryson, what do you think? Agree, disagree?
So I definitely agree, but there's something I want to add is that anytime we approach a market, we always try to understand the level of sophistication of the customers within that market. 5-6 years ago, you could throw a diagram up on Kickstarter and could raise money. Those days are long gone. Not only do you have to have a product, but you have to look legit. You have to convince these people that you're going to take their money, you're going to manufacture after big, debacles like
Coolest
Cooler. Sorry,
Yeah.
we're calling you out. All these other companies that go bankrupt. It's very common for Kickstarter companies to go bankrupt, and people know that. And so it costs, a video for a good video on Kickstarter. You're running 2, 3, 5, 10 grand. You're putting that page together to make it look legit. You're putting a couple grand in. To make a prototype, you're putting a couple grand in. And so unless you got 15, 20 grand to, really spend to make your page look at the level it needs to be in order to drive $1 million, it's not worth it. It's not worth using Kickstarter as that initial form of validation. It serves as a second level, but the first level before I put an investment in definitely has to go through that squeeze page funnel that we're on.
I've seen so many horror stories of people spending $60K to just launch, and then their return is $100K. Like, so really they only got $40K and they have to fulfill with $40K. Like, it's not going to happen. And even people just going in the red, like everything they made on the campaign is gone by the end.
All right. So to wrap up this podcast, the understanding of the correct way to sell a product on Kickstarter, or to how to sell a product on Kickstarter, is you're going to create a squeeze page, is what we call it. Use something like lead pages. And that way you can create a brand, you can get a .com website up and running. Even if you don't have a product, you can get like a North Face jacket, impose your logo on it, say it's a heated jacket. You can start A/B testing to see if it's converting well. And then once you're comfortable at that stage, I'm assuming you're spending maybe $2, $3, $5 grand at this point, or maybe doing it all yourself if you're a designer. Then
it depends on your team. Something I want to add to just that first thing is the number one key to this marketing phase of Kickstarter is putting your marketing in front of people who know what Kickstarter is. So when you're running these validation phases on this squeeze page, you're marketing against audiences who know what Kickstarter is. If the second you start putting your ads in front of a group of people that don't understand this process of pre-funding and waiting forever, you lose money. I've lost a lot of money not knowing this principle.
how much money have you lost on Kickstarter?
Tens of thousands of dollars.
But you've made millions, so it's work.
Yeah, but we
work
had
for
to
itself.
spend a
That's a-
lot to
yeah.
understand that.
And that's what makes it frustrating for us sometimes when we try to consult with people and tell them, like, learn from our mistakes. Like,
They just skip the step.
yeah, they just
They don't think this step's important. Then they go out and lose
I would
20 grand.
I would
An
even
example of someone who's, without mentioning names, or maybe if you can mention names, it'd be even better, of a company that skipped the step. It sounds like you know of someone. It sounds like I think we all know
plenty of
someone.
so I would add one more step to the validation process, though, that recently we started mentioning a lot more, and that's we understand Kickstarter very well, and so we also know like what type of products to launch on there as well. Like, so we have like sort of categories, and we understand the demo. Like, the demo is your millennial age, like your 20s to 35, professional, like, or tech savvy.
Mostly male.
Yeah, mostly.
Male dominant.
Yeah, and then we look for everyday use, everyday carry type of items too, like backpacks, jackets, wallets, and and they may seem like on Kickstarter is very saturated, but they still work. And so that's we look at those topics, we look at those categories.
So before you invest the money to build the squeeze page, you're already vetting ideas through a series of, I know what this demo looks like. Putting a women's whatever item on Kickstarter, is most likely, there are projects that work, but there's very specific reasons why they work. It's because they came with a following. They came with, an asset that they brought to Kickstarter, not necessarily that they got from Kickstarter, which sometimes I ask myself, does that even make sense to give 9% to Kickstarter if you already have the following to drive your own pre-sales? So,
and then the big thing too, that our advantage and what we're leveraging is that we can launch Kickstarters without a following because we follow this process. Yes. So sometimes it's sad to see people who do have a following tend to fail and not reach the goals they really want to reach.
Yes. We're talking about leveraging the Kickstarter audience is how our formula is, the steps that we take to launch.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and join us again for another episode on how to start a business. And this is Bryson and Anthony. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.